Hi, and welcome to the last episode of Josh's Car Corner that's going to be coming from Arizona. Today we are going to be talking about drive shafts. See, when it comes to the GTO, the factory drive shaft is less than satisfactory to say the least. It's a two-piece drive shaft, which means it's got a carrier bearing in the middle of it. So it's actually two shafts that are about, as long as my forearm here, with a carrier bearing in the middle supporting it. And it's got these rubber donuts that are used at both ends of the drive shaft, and they attach the drive shaft to pinion adapters on both ends, and those rubber things are there just to give it a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of give, so it gives a softer, more comfortable ride and changes between gears. But they're flimsy, they wear out, they can tear. One of my original ones was tearing. So about 3 or 4 years ago, what I did is I replaced the single piece unit with this thing. This is a 3.5-inch aluminum drive shaft, one piece, no carrier bearing in the middle. And this thing worked great. It's considerably lighter than the factory drive shaft, and because of that, you end up having a lot less rotational mass, which gives you better acceleration, better fuel economy, and better overall performance. As a matter of fact, when I installed this thing 3 or 4 years ago, I shot a lot of footage, and I never had a way or reason to use it. So I'm actually going to take you back in time here to when me and Joe actually put this thing in at his house using his backyard buddy in his garage, and the things we had to do to put this thing in, so you're going to see them right now, so take a look.
Okay, the first thing we need to do is attach the drive shaft adapter to the pinion yoke. It has grooves in it right here, and they fit into dowel pre-cut holes so it lines up perfectly. So you just set it in there, and then they give you hardware in the kit, these new grade 10.9 bolts. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite glue on them first, just to really make sure they stay in place.
Oh, hold on. Be careful with the seal.
Okay. Take your time.
There we go.
Okay, that should slide all the way in. That should give us plenty of room to get this up. It's just this little lip right here. There we go.
Okay.
There. Now it's got to line up with those holes. Nope, wrong way. Got to turn it 90. Okay, the drive shaft is in, and now I've just been eyeballing it looking for clearance issues, and we found one right here with this exhaust hanger. Now we use the outside to hold the exhaust in place, so we don't really need this inside bit, and it gets pretty close there, so we're going to end up cutting that off with a cutoff wheel to make sure we get proper clearance.
Almost there.
So here it is present day, and this thing has been out of the car for just under a year. I took it out in November after getting the differential rebuilt, because after the shop who did the work screwed me over so bad. By the way, for those that are going to be living down here, Raven Industries up by Tempe Marketplace, don't go there. Bad juju. They screwed me so hard. They ended up charging me $1,000 extra just so they could sell me a new differential case that I didn't need. That's a long story, but don't go there, rip-off artists. Anyway, the reason I took this out of the car in the first place was because that adapter broke. I've actually got it right here. You might not be able to see it. It's got these recessed sections in it right here. Maybe you can see that. See where this rises up? That actually goes in the holes on the pinion flange. And what happened is, see this one right here? There's nothing there. That just broke. And when that broke, it just unbalanced everything, and there was nothing putting weight on that corner, so it all just got unbalanced, and then it made it almost undrivable, so I had to take the drive shaft out. So I went back to the factory two-piece, and it's my buddy Nick's, and since I'm leaving, I have to give it back to him, and I wanted to step it up. I didn't want to get another aluminum one because they're only balanced to about 8,000 RPM, and the problem with that is, for doing top speed stuff like no fly zone, standing mile stuff, no good. So there's a third option. This is a carbon fiber drive shaft. This weighs probably about the same as the aluminum one, maybe a little bit lighter, but this one's got some big advantages. Number one is the carbon fiber can actually handle more power, and what's cool about it is because it's not made of aluminum, it doesn't act as a resonance chamber. One of the big problems with the aluminum drive shaft is any slop you have in the drive line, you get that clunk, and because there's no rubber donuts in there with the aluminum drive shaft, all that clunk just turns into an instant stop and just turns into a loud noise, and the aluminum just magnifies it, turns it into an echo chamber. The carbon fiber drive shaft shouldn't do that because it's not metallic. And this one is made by Driveshaft Shop, but I gotta give a shout out to the guy I actually bought it from, which is Brian Kolar at Kolar Racing Products. If you have a GTO, you've got to go there. He's got all the parts you need to maintain these things, and he has great prices. The reason I got to plug him here is because if you go to Driveshaft Shop and order this drive shaft, they want $1,100. Get it through his site, $934, and he has them on the shelf. Now, the other cool thing about this drive shaft is it doesn't have that adapter in the middle like the aluminum one does. It has this direct bolt-on flange. So see that? The U-joint's right there, and then that bolts directly to the pinion, eliminating the adapter, eliminating the chance of something breaking back there. So I'm going to be putting this drive shaft in right now, and it's not too hard to do it. The hardest part is actually taking the factory one out, and hopefully if there's enough light left, we can get some footage of that and I can show you taking the factory one out. The big thing is you have to drop the exhaust. Now I'm hoping I don't have to take it completely off the car because I already took the drive shaft out from the back end with the exhaust just hanging. So I'm hoping I can do that again, but we'll see what happens here.
Okay, I turned the night shot mode on just to make this a little easier, but yeah. So here's what you got going on back here. See how the factory drive shaft has got the 3 points of contact, and then this is the stupid donut flange, and it's got 3 points of contact with the pinion back here. So that's how it all connects up. Now, you can take this apart in any order. The carrier bearing is right there. You can unbolt the carrier bearing first and let it hang, and that makes this a little easier to get apart. That's what I'm going to do next, but I just took all the bolts out of here first. But once you get those out, undo the carrier bearing, and then up there you've got another donut gasket. However, that one just holds the piece that goes into the transmission to the other donut. You don't have to take that apart in order to get it out. So I'm just going to undo those 2 bolts next, and then it'll come out. And then I'll take them, all 3 drive shafts inside, and we'll weigh them, and we'll see how much the actual weight difference is between the 3. Okay, well it turns out I forgot one thing, that you can't just pull this back and out because the transmission tunnel gets in the way back there. So you have to take the 3 bolts out that go between this input pinion and the donut gasket. Then you can pull the donut gasket apart away from it, and then it'll drop down. Then you can get it all out. So that's what I'm about to do here. Okay, we've moved into my apartment here because I have better lighting and better sound control in here. This might be the first time someone's had all 3 of the drive shafts you can get for the GTO in one place. So what I've got here is my bathroom scale. Now, you might think this is not a great measuring device, but this thing's actually pretty accurate. It can measure to within 1/5 of a pound, so I'm just going to step on it right now just so we can get a control measurement. Okay, so right now it's saying 215.2. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pick up the factory drive shaft, and I need the assorted hardware too because the hardware itself has some substantial weight to it. So I've got it picked up, so let's just see what it all weighs. $242.5 pounds from 215.2. That's a lot of weight. So next I will grab the aluminum drive shaft and hold that. Let's get down here and measure this one. This thing is pretty light. But we'll see what we got going here. So we've got 232. So this thing weighs 17 pounds, or 16.8. That is a huge benefit to your drivetrain and performance. So now we got the carbon fiber. So let's pick this thing up and see what this thing weighs. $229.4. So this only weighs 14.2 pounds. So this is 2.2 pounds lighter still than the aluminum one. So it is the lightest one. So now we know. The aluminum 3.5 anyway is 16. There is a 4-inch one that some companies sell too, and I don't know the weight of that one. But this one, 14.2 pounds, by far the lightest. So now you have your official numbers. What do the drive shaft options for the GTO all weigh? Okay, the carbon fiber drive shaft is in now. I've been driving around with it for a couple of weeks. I actually just got done changing the oil too, and I have very good things to report. It drives very similar to the aluminum drive shaft. The only difference is because it's made of carbon instead of aluminum, it doesn't translate that driveline slop through it and amplify it and make that loud clanging noise anymore. And the one thing I noticed right away over the factory two-piece drive shaft is that I no longer have that snapping effect during a quick hard upshift. See, with the rubber donuts on the factory drive shaft, what happens is they twist and they bind up and then they release that tension after they rebound, and you get this snap in the drive line that kind of jerks the car. Some people like that. I personally don't. With the carbon, because it's a direct thing and there's no slop in it anymore, it just immediately translates that power to the ground. So if anything, you just spin the wheels a little bit and then you keep going. So let's talk about the drive shafts and when you should use which drive shaft. Now for the factory two-piece drive shaft, what I would say is if you're a stock car or if you're mildly modified, just say bolt-ons, I think the factory two-piece is fine for you. The other situation it's good in is if you're doing very high speed stuff. Say you're doing standing mile competitions or half mile competitions. Because the factory two-piece drive shaft is got that carrier bearing and it's divided in two, you have less of a cylinder that's spinning around. Because what happens with single-piece drive shafts is the faster they spin, the more they get a resonance in them, and they actually get what's called a jump rope effect in them. So imagine a jump rope going around. If you pull it taut, it doesn't really spin, but if it's loose, it starts to vibrate like that. Well, what happens is single-piece drive shafts start to actually, the material starts to stretch, and they get this jump rope effect in them. That's the vibration that you feel when they start spinning faster than they're designed. A two-piece drive shaft eliminates that because you've only got half the shaft spinning in both places, so you can spin them faster. Now, the aluminum drive shaft, I'd say, is a good upgrade if your bolt-ons are higher and you want to go drag racing and you never want to really go that fast. If you say you're never going to go faster than 140 with factory gearing, it's fine. If you go to 373s or 391s, your speed's going to drop because now your drive shaft is spinning faster to go the same speed, so then that's going to lower your overall top speed. So if that's all you want to do, an aluminum's fine. It'll hold up to all the power you can throw at it. The only thing I would say is if you're going to get one, get the direct fit flange from DSS. So if you get your drive shaft from DSS, you're going to get it, but if you get one from another manufacturer, if it comes with that stupid adapter, those things are going to fail on you, and they aren't going to give you as good a fit as the direct fit flange from DSS, because that thing, along with bolting directly to the three fingers on the pinion, it also slides over the snout coming out of the pinion too, and that's a nice tight press fit, so you know that thing is absolutely centered when you bolt it on, so it's going to eliminate your vibrations that much more. When you're bolting an adapter to the pinion and then you're bolting the drive shaft to the adapter, now you're creating points where things can get off in measurement. You're talking like millimeters or maybe even micrometers off, but that is enough that once you start spinning 7,000-8,000 RPM, you're going to get a vibration. And it's going to unbalance, and because things are unbalanced because they're not perfectly lined up. So I would say get the direct fit flange. Now the carbon fiber drive shaft is obviously the ultimate because it is, as we found out, just slightly lighter than the aluminum. It doesn't get the resonance in it as soon as an aluminum does. It's designed to spin a higher speed. So an aluminum's 8,000 RPM, a carbon can spin to about 10,000 RPM. So you can go faster. So it's the best of both worlds. The downside, obviously, is the price. Because you're talking $900 to $1,000 for a carbon drive shaft. You can get an aluminum one for about $600, and then the factory one, there are some things you can do to it. The company Driveshaft replaces those factory rubber donut flanges with updated aluminum flanges with poly in them. So you get rid of that flexing
nonsense that happens with the rubber. So you can make an improvement to a factory drive shaft with that. And there are companies that sell heavy-duty two-piece drive shafts with an upgraded carrier bearing and a bigger spicer U-joint so they won't fail. They cost about the same as a carbon, and they are just as heavy as the factory drive shaft, if not heavier. So they're not really a good way to go. I mean, if you're going for top speed stuff, you might as well go carbon, and unless you're talking about going over 200 miles an hour, and I've never heard of anybody in a GTO talking about going over 200 miles an hour. So hopefully this episode is giving you some insight. If you plan on doing things to upgrade your drive line with a different drive shaft or even just making improvements to the factory setup, hopefully this is giving you some good ideas. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode and learned something from it. The next episode you see is going to be a special one, and it will not be coming from Arizona. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it. So once again, thanks for watching Josh's Car Corner, and we'll see you guys next time.